All right, Greg, long night for you. And I don't know where to start. Probably should start with Lando, but I got to talk about Cub first. That fight was so spectacular. You know that he is an artist and he's a creative type, and I've heard you cornering him, when you're giving him encouragement, it's telling him how artistic the fight is. So, but when you see a fight like that, that even sort of operates outside of that range into passion and heart and all that, how does it make you feel as a coach?
I really got into it tonight. Usually I'm not very emotional in the corner. I'm pretty laid back. Tonight, I think I'm tired from all the travel or something because, man, I was screaming and pounding. I got into it. So sometimes it's a fight, you know what I mean? Like you have to follow these parameters that you set. But then at the end of the day, it's just about having that passion and that fire. And, man, I had it in the corner. Cub had it in the fight. It was just one of those nights.
I talked to Cub leading up to it, and he really, it was apparent right away that he wasn't afraid of that guy's right hand. And that guy's turning people off with his right hand. But instead of seeing it as a threat, he was going to look at it as an opportunity. But once he got him moving back, it really just became a fight. And that guy knows how to fight.
And that's it. Just the subtleness, which I'm sure you've already broken down, but a lot of the subtleness of that fight, understanding how his head was offline so the guy couldn't find that mark, you know what I mean, trying to line up his sights to hit him. Little things like that keep the initiative in our favor, and when we were able to push that initiative forward, we were able to really execute what we wanted to do. That left hook was there. There was a lot because as a puncher, you fall in love with your power, right? Like you're knocking everybody out, and you're so used to people disappearing when you had hand hits that sometimes when they don't disappear, it can psychologically disbalance you.
You mentioned sight. I was sort of describing it as an analogy for viewers that when you play video games, sometimes you get that little sight on there. Yeah, and you were just keeping his head out of that sight.
Right. So we're trying to get him back into the processing part, not the action part. You process and then you decide. So if we can keep you processing and not deciding, then we have the initiative.
I broke it down as assess, analyze, and execute was what he was doing, and you kept him at the assessing and analyzing.
Exactly. If you were going to OODA loop it, yes, it's very similar to that. Yep, absolutely.
Cool. Now, Lando, sidekick, closing the distance with that sidekick, and he had set him up to kind of pattern set him that it was a throwaway, that sidekick was never going to be a threat, and then two of them to the spinning kick. And I noticed that sidekick kept coming, especially when they showed it a second time. We got to see it. Was that part of it? Like, does he disguise those setups and start to lay it out on a platter at first?
Well, right. That's the thing with Landon is to keep you into that processing element, he stays unpredictable. So he's setting patterns and then breaking patterns and then something else and then setting a pattern. So, yeah, it's very much by design his style because he's so explosive and so creative and he can kind of keep his cool in the fight. He's able to express that artistic style. And that was just a very low rhythm, change rhythm, go high maneuver. So, yeah, that's very designed.
Something we've been talking about a lot is noticing, the rapid change, the rapid evolution of how things are happening, exponential growth, and gyms were going and building a curriculum and then doing exactly the same thing. I put my hand in here, I put my head position here, and it was a curriculum-based training. But the gyms that ended up keeping that so curriculum-based are the ones that you guys like you are trying to exploit now, right. That there's something that everyone does, so we'll work around it. Is that conscious? How do you keep that happening and stay on the front end of that?
Well, what you do is you keep the style individualistic. So it's almost a decentralized system in that it's about the individual having the power, even though it's still centralized. People that think that decentralized systems are actually decentralized are only looking at the principles and the rules. There's the principles of combat and the rules of combat. The rules are very fluid. The principles are kind of static. So what these guys do is they over-focus on the rules and not enough on the principles. Yeah. And so what we do is try to exploit their holes by making the rule pattern kind of they're always the same. We can work around it.
Because their rules become limiting factors for them. Yeah, it's super cool. And Cowboy did what Cowboy does. And it's weird. It seems without question that just him being able to be free out there is the key. If he gets out of his own way, he'll beat any man in the world.
And that's really his thing. Is he's actually, and I always tell him this, he's an actual genius when it comes to combat because of the way his little computer up here processes things. He's able to see openings, fire back, set consistent patterns, and then the deeper the water goes, the stronger he gets. Well, why is that? Why is he always a slow starter? It's because his computer's analyzing. So he's good now where he's not going to get finished in the first 30 seconds. He can ride through it and get in trouble. The proudest moment in that fight, two of them. One was when Brown was really pressuring him against the cage and he decided you could just see him say no. And then this is when he was deep in that triangle. Same thing, like, nope, you're not beating me tonight. And just having that fire, I think, is very inspiring. I like it a lot. But also he's just processing. So the deeper the water goes, the more of an accurate picture he has.
Are you still obsessively curious about martial arts forever?
Yeah, if it stops being interesting, I'll stop being interested in it. But it's constantly moving and evolving, and some parts of it get smaller, right, and some parts of it get bigger, and so yeah, it's this beautiful, fluid thing that I enjoy very much.
Yeah, me too.
I know you do.
Thanks, Greg. It's really great talking to you.
Oh, my pleasure, sir. Thank you for having me.